Hello, everyone. Welcome to the UPress Play News Podcast, Episode 4. My name is Natalia. I am the news editor.
I am Gillian. I am the copy desk chief.
I'm Michael. I'm a contributing writer.
And on today's list of topics we'll be talking about in FAA News, we'll be talking about the Justin Flippen Memorial Scholarship that was just announced, who is getting the scholarship, and FAU in-person commencement. And in national news, we'll be talking about the AstraZeneca vaccine, Texas reopening, stimulus checks, minimum wage, Kunmo, and the George Floyd police reform bill. So I guess I'll just start off with the FAU in-person commencement. So this past week, FAU John Kelly announced the in-person commencement for the spring 2021 graduating class. Now, this ceremony will be held in 2 different time slots depending on the college that the student is graduating in. Now, this is only for the spring 2021 graduating class. All of the graduating classes from 2020 are being told not to come as of right now. There will be something separate for them. Now, there is a separate day as of right now. They are having a separate day specifically as a backup in case it does rain, because this in-person commencement will be outside. It would not be held in a closed indoor space. So does anyone want to kind of talk about it, what they view from this? Because I think it's a good thing that they're trying to have an in-person commencement.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, because earlier in the semester, I spoke to 2020 graduates who didn't get to have that experience. And obviously, it's, very frustrating. Most people were pretty good sports about it and, satisfied that FAU did something. But I just really hope that they can do this safely. Because as exciting as it is that people do get to walk, we're still not at the point where everyone is vaccinated, and numbers still aren't fantastic. So I'm excited for the graduating class. I just hope that this is something that they can do safely.
Mm-hmm. So, Michael, you want to pitch in on this?
Yeah, I agree with Gillian. I think having it outside is definitely a great idea, and I think that it's good that we're having it. We've had FEU's had sports, indoor sports. I mean, you could go to the arena and watch the basketball game, and I know that the arena's small and it doesn't allow very many people. But if you can go watch a basketball game, which, I mean, if we should even be playing sports is another conversation altogether. But then I think that people should be able to walk at their graduation, especially if it's outside, especially if it's at 2 different venues and they're doing everything they can to keep people safe. And we've all watched the news. We see the cases are coming down. More and more people are getting vaccinated. And I don't know. I'm happy for the 2021 graduates, because when I got my associate in arts at Broward College, I didn't get the chance to graduate. So and I like Gillian said, I was a good sport about it. Didn't really bother me, but I know that that might bother other people a different type of way, and you'd hate to see that opportunity get taken from you. So I'm really happy that they're going to try it in some way, and I hope that everyone stays safe.
Mm-hmm. I remember I was the last, when I graduated from Broward College from my AA, I was the last class that actually had the ceremony, because I graduated in fall 2019. So I was the last one that actually got to have that experience. So I'm pretty happy that the people that are graduating this semester are going to have that opportunity. So Gillian, I think you wanted to say something?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just a really great point about sports being able to, have their games and stuff. I thought that was a really great point, because it's very true, and it's interesting always to see where priorities lie.
The Justin Flippen Memorial Scholarship, the recipient was just named this past week. So, Gillian, I know you had some updates on that.
Yeah, so Emily Miranda, she is going to receive the scholarship. So the Justin Flippin Memorial was made in honor of Justin Flippin. He was actually an FAU student body president 20 years ago. He was the first openly gay student body president in the state of Florida 20 years ago. And he very sadly passed away in February 2020 due to an aneurysm at the age of 41. So that is why FAU has this scholarship in his name. So yes, the recipient, she's going to be Emily Miranda. She's a political science major here at FAU, and she says she is very passionate about political activism and social justice. So people who knew Flippin are very happy that she's going to be the recipient. They feel like she's a very worthy recipient, and she's also very honored to be the first one to receive it. So it's very exciting.
Mm-hmm. So, Michael, do you have anything you want to kind of pitch in?
Yeah. There's a couple cool things I like about this. I like that that to get the scholarship, you have to be entering public service, because I think from the little bit I know about Flippin that he was he cared about that. But one of the things that was I feel like he was a trailblazer in a lot of ways, because you see in the article he gets shout outs from Pete Buttigieg, he gets shout outs from Andrew Gillum, and these are Pete Buttigieg is gay, and Gillum came out as bisexual, I think, earlier this year. So you could say without Flippin that maybe these politicians wouldn't have had the courage to come out and be their true selves and run for election, get elected, things like that. So I'm really happy for the scholarship, even though for the recipient of it, even though my major, I don't think any of our majors qualify for it. But that's awesome that that she's able to get that and able to give back in a way. And I think it's cool also for the memory of Justin Flippin. I used to live in Wilton Manors, and it's an awesome place. It's really different culturally than the rest of Fort Lauderdale in such a cool way. Like Wilton Drive is awesome. So yeah, I mean, it's awesome. That's the way I feel.
Yeah, and just for context, he was mayor of Wilton Manors, I believe,
Yeah.
at some point. Yeah.
Back in the day, yeah, and that's an awesome city. I mean, there's so many cool restaurants, there's so many cool people. So I'm happy that one of Fort Lauderdale's own gets remembered in such a good way.
So I guess that wraps up all the FAU news we have into national news now. So the first on the national news is the AstraZeneca vaccine. So if you guys don't know, the AstraZeneca is another one of the COVID-19 vaccines that was rolled out in Europe, not in the United States as of know of, but apparently Italy blocked exports of the AstraZeneca coronavirus vaccine to Australia amid anger in the European Union over the delivery of the AstraZeneca vaccine. And just a couple hours ago, maybe 7 hours ago, according to Reuters, I
think it's Reuters.
Reuters said Austria has suspended the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine batch after death. So apparently, Austrian authorities are suspending a batch of the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine as a precaution while investigating the death of one person and the illness of another after the shots. So I don't know for the United States. I know we're not possibly getting the AstraZeneca. I know right now we have the Pfizer, the Moderna, and I'm pretty sure we just got the Johnson & Johnson one.
Yep.
So, Michael, you had something to say about this?
I was going to say that for this death thing, I read that too just like 20 minutes ago. They don't know for sure that the death is causally related yet. So before we anyone gets scared, but I know it's not available to the U.S. yet. But another interesting thing is the Dalai Lama. He got the AstraZeneca vaccine yesterday. So we'll see. I don't know when that's or if we're going to get it in the United States eventually, but we need all the help we can get. But I just thought that it was important to say that they don't know for sure if this vaccine had anything to do with someone dying or getting sick yet. They don't know. And I mean, I know it doesn't. We don't have it here in the U.S., but we've seen how many people are skeptical, I guess, of the vaccines and public health and all that. So.
Because I remember there was one case of someone took the COVID-19 vaccine and then died, but the person already had COVID in them before they got the vaccine. So it's always nice to kind of be skeptical about these deaths, make sure, is it related to the vaccine or is it related to anything that the person already had before they took this specific vaccine? So, Gillian.
Yeah, I'll definitely be looking forward to the studies that they release on it because I'm very cynical about the cause and effect relationship here. Hopefully it isn't the cause, and I guess I'm most concerned because I have family members who have very much fallen into this hole of, anti-vaccination, specifically anti-COVID vaccination. I had a family member the other day send me a documentary about how it's going to taking the vaccine will kill me and I'll be infertile and I'll never have kids. And I want to watch it because I just want to know. I want to know where they're getting this information. Apparently, some doctor who quit has a gripe. I don't know. It's just so. When I hear headlines like this, it makes me nervous because I know it just feeds into this kind of almost mass hysteria. I don't want to say mass because I don't think the population number is that big, hopefully. But it always just makes me nervous because I know it's going to have an impact on our ability to safely combat the virus.
Michael.
Yeah, I got a little bit of the same thing with that. I wanted to say, first of all, too, though, that if anyone's going to get vaccinated, make sure you go to your doctor first and find out that you're not allergic to anything or anything, because you can get, you know what I mean? You have to make sure that you're not allergic to something. That doesn't mean that the vaccine is making you sick. It means it's sort of like a peanut allergy. Peanuts aren't dangerous. They're dangerous to only certain people or whatever like that. But I've seen the infertility thing as well, Gillian, from people that I know. And it's like, I don't know where they're getting the information, and it's brave of them to assume I want children anyway, but
I had the same thought. I was like, you don't even know what I'm planning on doing with my life. So
yeah, so I'll throw that in there. But I think that if I'm not a big Facebooker, it's I think it's more of a social network for older people nowadays. But if you go on there, I have one, and I have friends that are older that are on there, and you should just see like a lot of the bogus stuff that gets shared. You saw a lot of it during the election, and now it's like vaccine stuff. And or even if I was reading in the Washington Post, a lot of the people that subscribe to like all these conspiracies, they think it's like a microchip or it's to sterilize people or whatever. But I don't know. That's where I assume they're getting it from, but I don't understand how people fall for it because it's so clearly fake, and I don't know. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why, and will be very quick, or I'll try to make it very quick, but there's a lot of, maybe not a lot, but people research, why people are susceptible to this, and I think that we have so much uncertainty in our country, and I think that our country does need so much reform, and people need to find someone or something to blame, and these theories give people a way to do that. But that's just what I think.
And up next, we also have Texas reopening. So Texas, as of right now, has the governor of Texas basically took out the mask mandate in the whole entire part of Texas. But apparently, from what I've heard, there are still some places in Texas that are still requiring the use of masks. So what do you guys think about this? I think it's completely ridiculous that he's saying, oh, let's just get rid of the mask. Let's just open everything up. No. So, Michael.
All right, I have some very strong opinions on this, and I'm pretty mad. Number one, the thing that makes me mad is that Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, was vaccinated in December. So, of course, he is not worried about getting sick. Number two, I'm not surprised because we're talking about Texas, and this is the state where they call every soda a Coke, even if it's a Mountain Dew. So I'm not surprised at all. Number three, I think it sets an awful precedent because we've seen two other states open since. And I think that my fear is that Florida will open, that DeSantis will see us as a tourist destination where there's no masks and you can come to Disney and jump on the beach and have fun and get people that live here sick. That's my fourth concern, I believe. But the thing that gives me hope is that private businesses, I believe,
Mhm.
correct me if I'm wrong, still have the right to enforce you to wear a mask. Even if they were to get rid of the mask mandate tomorrow, I would still wear mine because I'm not vaccinated and I don't want to get anyone sick. I don't trust a lot of other people. But if they lift the mask mandate in Florida, that I already don't go out that often, but that's going to drop the amount of time that I go out. And if they think that that's going to help the economy, in my specific case, I got money to spend right now, and I will not be going out in person to spend it if that's the case. I mean, I just think it sets a terrible precedent. It doesn't surprise me that it's Texas. I'm not trying to be mean to Texas or the people that live there, but it just doesn't surprise me that it would be Texas and then what is the other state, Mississippi, that would do it. It seems like their whole coronavirus response since last year, some of these states has been just to do what's the opposite of what public health experts recommend. So they're willing to get sick and die to prove a point, which is just kind of crazy to me. But Gillian can go ahead.
Mhm.
No, I just thought it was worth mentioning as well because you were talking about the masks that if you do get vaccinated, the CDC is still saying to wear a mask anyways because they have not done a lot of research in terms of, if you're vaccinated, can you still spread it to other people? We know that it decreases your chances of getting sick and dying, but they don't know how that affects how you spread it to other people. So anybody listening who has had their vaccine, make sure that you're still wearing your mask for the
Mhm.
time being. But yes, I share the same sentiment as Michael that this is very frustrating to see. Of course, the people of Texas didn't do it, their politicians did, and it's just very unfortunate. I think that we've seen a lot of videos, or at least I've seen a lot of videos online in the past, even when this was a state mandate that people had to wear masks of, people losing their minds saying that the stores can't enforce it anyways, So um, I've worked in retail and I feel very bad for the people who are going to be working in the service industry at this time because they are still going to have every right to tell people to wear a mask, but people are going to be increasingly combative. It's quite unfortunate.
Mhm.
One thing I wanted to add too that really bothers me about this is that I feel like that the compliance of it is going to be that in the more rural areas where you have less access to hospitals and healthcare and more poor people live, that it's going to create, which are already areas that are getting hit hard, but this is just going to hit them harder. I feel like, we take for granted if you live in South Florida, we live around big cities. Pretty much, you can't go
Mhm.
nowhere without a mask on. But if you live in a rural county somewhere, you might be able to walk into a bar and have a drink or whatever. And Texas is a big state. There's
Mhm.
little towns around big cities, and there's long stretches of nothing in between them. So that's my concern as well, is that it's gonna hurt those people the worst, and they're already getting hit really hard. So it's just terrible because it's like Jillian said, it's not the people, it's the politicians, and I share her concern for the retail workers. They do not make enough money to get yelled at by crazy people that come in and threaten them and stuff for not wearing a mask. And I think this is going to increase incidences of that because they're going to say, well, the governor says I don't have to wear a mask. You know what I mean? You can't enforce it when, private businesses have always been able to enforce
Mhm.
what you wear when you come in their store.
So now, also this past week, we had in the White House, in Congress and Senate, we had the talks of the stimulus check and minimum wage. So a Democrat defected on a 15 minimum wage hike. So basically, what they mean is the $15 minimum wage that was everybody voted on, everybody wanted it, basically fell apart because these 8 Democrats said, no, we don't want it. We don't want this vote, so we're not going to do it. So, what do you guys think about this? I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So first, I will. I'm going to list out the senators who voted no. Um, And I also have, this is from a tweet, so take it with a grain of salt, but it also explains their net worth. And I think that's a very interesting thing to think about. Chris Coons, 10.13 million. Angus King, 9.49 million. Joe Manchin, 7.62 million. Tom Carper, 5.73 million. Gene Shaheen, 3.82 million. John Tester, 3.67 million. Maggie Hassan, 3.47 million. And there's nothing listed for Kristen Cinema. But so it makes me a little angry to see people who are worth, double digits in the millions for some of them even, saying that people don't deserve a living wage. I think it really just goes to show how out of touch our politicians are with what people actually need, especially considering the fact that there was a poll and 60% of Americans approved of increasing the minimum wage. So people need it, people want it, and the politicians aren't willing to give it. And very quickly, I wanted to talk about Senator Sinema, who there's a video online. I don't know if either of you have seen it, of her voting no on the bill, and she comes to the floor. She pats McConnell on the back. She walks to the front of the room, does a cute little curtsy, thumbs down, and then leaves. So it's very interesting, also considering the fact that she ran on promoting a minimum wage. There's tweets that you could see saying that people want the minimum wage, if people need the minimum wage to rise. And she had a very cute way of really turning it down. It was really tone deaf, to say the least.
Mm-hmm. So, Michael.
Yeah, I saw that too, and it made me mad to keep it PG in here, but it made me very angry. But the thing that there's two things I want to talk to you about this is that this may get voted on again at a later date. They're striking it down as part of a stimulus package, so let's see if they do keep their promises. Now, I'm not trying to say that I believe that they will, and you know what I mean, because we've seen this kind of stuff before. But this may be revisited at a later time. I don't think anyone that's working 40 hours a week should be struggling to make ends. I don't care if you work at McDonald's. I don't care where you work. Every job has worth. Every person has worth. You should be able to have basic necessities, a car, a place to live, be able to have kids, things like that. I mean, but the big thing is that if Democrats have control right now and they ran on these promises, and if they don't keep their promises in 2 years, you can see things flip. So I think it's imperative for them to go, I don't know, to try and deliver on these promises. And how long has the minimum wage been? $7.25?
A very, very long time.
13
I can look it up.
years, 13 or 14?
Something like that.
And I don't know if any of you have ever worked for that low of a wage. I personally have. It's pretty terrible, especially if you're not getting help from your mom, your dad, or some other source. I mean, I don't know what to say. I think that even $15 an hour, depending on where you live, can sometimes be too low. You know what I mean? So this is something I think that they're definitely going to have to visit again. I know they struck it down as part of the stimulus package, but what was her name? Cinema, when she went out and did the little thumbs down. It's just like, why would you even do such a thing? You know you're on TV, you know you're on CCTV, and that's just, I don't know, man. I expect that from a child, not someone that's an elected representative. So,
So, Gillian.
Yeah, just to add, so the minimum wage has been $7.25 since 2009. Prior to that, in 2008, it was $6.55, and prior to that, in 2007, it was $5.85. So it was steadily increasing up until 2009, and we haven't seen an increase since. So there's the information on that.
So I just saw this. This kind of has a little bit to do with minimum wage, kind of doesn't, but CBS News, it's an article says experts sound the alarm on declining birth rates among young generations. It's a crisis. And right near the end of the article, right at the end, they said something that actually pointed me out. It was the cost of living, the cost of education, all these things have become more and more difficult, Dallas said. I think the boomers themselves don't realize how much harder it is for millennials today. And they think, oh, yeah, when we were young, we had to live, on very little money, and we may do, and you can do the same. That's the story, right? Well, no. It really is a lot harder for young people today. It's amazing how much harder it is. And that really shook me because I was like, that is completely true because the older generation they grew up in era in that was okay. They made do with that. Now our generation, me, Gillian, Michael, all of us, we're living in a generation that is not possible. And that kind of goes back with the minimum wage. The minimum wage hasn't increased and the cost of living has just gone up and up. And we've seen no help in that. So, Gillian.
There was a study, and I believe if minimum wage kept up with inflation, it would be in the high 20s, almost $30 right now, if minimum wage kept up with inflation. So $15, if we want to go based off of inflation, is actually way too low. And so it's not surprising when, millennials and now Gen Z, like we can't afford to do the things that our parents could do and what our grandparents could do. It's really sad, and I hope we can get the $15 minimum wage passed, but I think honestly that people deserve more than that.
Mm-hmm. Michael.
I would agree with that. I was going to say, especially with what Gillian said, it's if you account for inflation, $15 is actually probably pretty low. And I mean, I have friends that are nurses, I have friends that are engineers that don't have children, that are in long-term relationships that aren't thinking at all about children. These are people that make a lot of money. You know what I mean? I have a car, I have my own place to stay and things like that, and I don't even think about children. And I've been with my girlfriend for 3 years. It's like not even on my radar at all. And the big reason for that is that everything's already expensive without feeding a kid. You know what I mean? So, and if you look back at like the baby boomer generation, after World War II, their parents and stuff, that economy, that boom was in part influenced by heavily taxing high earners. And we've really gotten away from that. And it's why it's kind of funny to me when Republicans talk about, when they say making America great again, to me, I read that as them make it like the 1950s and 60s again. Well, that would mean taxing rich people again. And it's just, I mean, that's basically my point, pretty much, is that higher taxes for the rich, more money for, us, for people that actually go to work and actually need it. And like Gillian said, 15 is probably still on the low end, probably.
Mm-hmm. So also this week we had stimulus checks being discussed. So as of right now, the stimulus payment is to $1,400. So anyone want to kind of give their viewpoints on this?
Yeah, so like you said, it's 1,400. The bill was a $1.9 billion bill. That was thankfully passed. Everyone will be getting, well, not everyone, but most people, they will be getting 1,400. What's different about this round of stimulus checks that I think is very important is college kids, even those who are claimed as dependents on tax forms for other people, they are still eligible for the stimulus check. So in the past, if you were a college student and your parents claimed you on their taxes, you were not eligible. Even if you were basically living independently, it didn't matter. But they are changing that this time around. So college kids, you are in that way eligible. So keep an eye out for that.
So Michael?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up as well. I'm an independent student, so I've been getting the stimulus checks, luckily, but I didn't know that back when they released the first one, way back when, that I was talking to one of my friends that I used to go to Broward with, and she said that she can't get it, and I was like, why? And she said, because I'm a college student, and I was like, well, I'm a student, I get it, and the difference is that her parents were claiming her on her tax returns, whereas I was an independent student. So now the college kids will get that money. They need that. That's a lot of money for a college kid. I mean, but also, I mean, I still think that our stimulus response has been kind of pathetic. If you look at like other countries, you look at France. I think France is, now I'm paraphrasing because I read this a long time ago, but they were getting like 2,800 US dollars equivalent a month for
Mhm.
everybody. And if you look at the GDP of France compared to the United States, we can afford to give that money more than France can, and yet we did not. And if you want the economy to come back, then it's in the word. It's stimulate. It stimulates the economy. I mean, so many people are one check away from getting thrown out of their house or whatever, and $1,400, one or two payments of $1,400 doesn't cut it. I'm glad it's coming now. Better have money than not have money. You know what I mean? And I don't like thinking of it as the government giving us the money because it comes from our tax dollars. You're getting your money basically. But yeah, I mean, better late than never. I think we should maybe even get more. Honestly, down the road, maybe we'll see what happens. I'm a little cynical about that, but yeah, I mean, hopefully we get more. I just the response I think has been pretty poor to this point.
You're completely right. I mean, other
Mhm.
countries paid their citizens over $1,000 a month to stay home, and they did that for months. And we have not done that, and I think that's part of the problem. There people who want to stay home can't stay home. Of course, there are
Mhm.
people who are retaliatory and they don't want to, but majority of people do want to, but they just can't. Like service workers, for example, they can't afford to not work. They wouldn't be able to pay their rent. So I think we could really have taken a lesson from foreign countries in terms of how to handle this and how to really uh, downturn the amount of cases.
Mhm. Yeah, especially like I'm studying like you guys know like I really love studying Asian culture, and I think it was in South Korea that I saw that they were when you if you were like positive for COVID or during this specific era of COVID time at the beginning, I'm not sure of now, they were giving like their people like stacks of like food like if they were in quarantine they got like their pads if they got like food and there would be like somebody that would come out and like in hazmat suits and pick up their stuff. So I just like when I saw that, I thought, oh my goodness, look at what South Korea is doing and look at what the United States is doing. It's completely different.
Yeah, I think it's a division type of thing. The U.S. is a little bit more divided, and those like it's just hard to compare because our country is one of only what two or three developed countries that doesn't have universal health care or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. So which is
We're
crazy.
yeah, we're one of the few. Most first world countries, to my understanding, do have like some kind of universal health care. Ours is quite barbaric compared to a lot of those around us.
So, of course, right now we also have Kumo. So, if you guys don't know, there have been sexual assault allegations against him. And just to kind of put this a little bit into perspective, Chris Kumo from CNN, he is the brother of Andrew Kumo. And this past week on CNN, he said, I will not be reporting on it because he is my brother. And I completely agree with him because that is a conflict of interest. He is his brother. He's not going to report on it. If anybody else at CNN is going to report it, they're going to report it themselves without him.
Yeah, if we didn't talk about it previously, just to recap, he was outed for basically misreporting the number of deaths within nursing homes due to COVID. So that has been a big issue. But even more recently now, there are women coming forward about sexual misconduct allegations. One reporter said that he tried to convince her to eat something in a way that was sexual, I believe. Uh, Another woman who came forward, she's actually 63 years old at this point, said that he created a culture of sexual harassment and bullying. So a total of 5 women have come out now against Cuomo, saying that he sexually harassed them in some form.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not a good look at all. And I think wasn't he on TV the other day and he steadfastly said that he would not resign at all at any point.
Yeah.
He did.
I think so.
But we'll have to see how this progresses. Definitely not a good look. As I mean, this is just I can't believe. Well, I can believe, but it's guys in position of power. You know how this happens. It seems to happen habitually. I wonder who raised these people, but this is just terrible. We'll see how it goes. You know, as we get more details. I'm sure we'll get more details this week. I'm sure more stuff will leak. There may even be more accusers. I mean, hopefully not, because you don't want more people to be hurt. But yeah, not a good look. It wasn't a good look with the nursing home stuff, but this is just even worse. Maybe I don't know. They're both so bad. Yeah, pretty much, man. We'll have to see what goes on with this.
Mm-hmm. And of course, we also have a bill on George Floyd has come out. So I didn't really hear about this until very recently. So, Gillian, do you want to give some backup on this?
Sure, it's a police reform bill in honor of George Floyd. It is more formally referred to as the HR1 bill, and essentially the nuts and bolts of it is that it will allow automatic voter registration. It will try to put a stop to gerrymandering. It will allow for publicly financed elections, and it will also increase the funds necessary for third party or smaller party candidates, essentially making it harder for them to get on the ballot. So that is an issue as well. So there's some positives, some negatives to the bill, and overall, I'm a bit skeptical about how effective it will be.
Mm-hmm. So, Michael.
I agree with Gillian. One thing that I think that hadn't been mentioned too is that this is supposed to end qualified immunity for police officers, and what that is, you could Google it, but the long and short of it is that it's hard to sue a police officer, even if they hurt you and they were proven wrong, basically. And this is supposed to end that. The automatic voting thing, that is awesome. That is cool because I don't know if you've been reading the papers and stuff, but there's in a lot of the states that flip to Biden, the Republican legislators and stuff are trying to restrict voter access, and they're really going on a campaign of voter suppression, which is disgusting. You know, they claim they love democracy while they demolish it every week. But banning the chokeholds and stuff, I'm all for that. But a lot of these chokeholds and stuff have been banned in police departments for years, sometimes decades, and we see that officers still use them, which is, you know what I mean, and ending racial discrimination and stuff like that amongst your police officers. Once again, you know, you could say that, but is something actually going to come of this? Are you still going to keep hiring from this same pool of problematic police officers and things like that? I mean, we all just want to live in a safer place. I think we all just want to be treated the same way. I'm a white guy. I don't got to worry really when I go out anywhere that anyone's going to bother me, but I'm not dumb enough to realize that other people aren't treated differently because of the color of their skin or the language they speak or whatever. So I'm skeptical of what it will change in those regards, as far as like the chokeholds and the actual discrimination, because if you keep hiring from the same pool of candidates and they still have the same training, and you still have this culture of us versus them, which is like the police's culture, I feel like, in a lot of ways. And that leads to, I would say, like combativeness and situations where I think we've seen a lot of situations in the last year or two where someone undergoing like a mental health crisis, the police get called, and then the person undergoing the crisis gets shot or killed or hurt. So I don't know. I mean, we need to do more work on it. Obviously, I think that and the biggest problem is that police officers really, when they do something wrong, they investigate themselves, and it's like we've investigated ourselves and found we've done nothing wrong. That should just be nah, you know what I mean? So and we'll see how that speaking of George Floyd, his Derek Chauvin, the man that killed him, that murdered him, I should say, he will go on trial this week on the 8th. So that is sure to be very interesting. So I know we'll probably talk about that maybe on the next podcast.
Mm-hmm. And something to kind of bring up, there was also kind of related to police, and we're on this topic. A Kentucky bill would make it a crime to insult a police officer. So in the state of Kentucky, there's a bill that's moving through the Senate there that would make it a crime to insult or taunt a police officer during a riot.
Which, again, I mean, you mentioned this, Michael, about the Republican Party, who seems to, you know, be very fond of the Constitution and spew rhetoric about protecting our freedoms. But to me, this seems like a very blatant infringement on First Amendment rights. Do I think that people should be able to assault officers? Of course not. But to say, because I've seen videos of people, insulting them and saying, "Oh, you're short," or "You look like," he said it, just basically teasing them. It's not nice, but to make it illegal, I mean, that seems like a step too far, to say the least.
Mm-hmm. And especially from what I'm reading on CBS News, a person convicted of this misdemeanor charge could face a $250 fine and be disqualified from public assistance benefits for 3 months. So, Michael.
Yeah, this bill doesn't surprise me because here in Florida we had something similar to this a couple weeks ago. I don't remember the specifics. I would pull it up, but it'd probably take me too long. But DeSantis, I think he was trying to push for something that would amount to any protest essentially being declared a riot and then getting people in trouble. And to me, it looked like a direct response to social justice protests, essentially to outlaw them. And we have the right to protest. We have the right to free assembly. And also, insulting a police officer has never really been illegal to my knowledge. And I mean, these are people that are supposed to act with restraint, that are supposed to help us, you know what I mean, when you call them. And I don't know, man, to find someone because they told a police officer, screw you, or you know what I mean, you're, like Gillian said, you're short, what are you gonna do? You're bald or whatever. I mean, come on, dude. They're supposed to be professionals. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
And the language seems, I mean, it'll be vague enough that, I mean, like you said, it said specifically in a protest, right? So if I'm at a protest, hypothetically, and I see a police officer, and if I just say one thing to him, even if it's not an insult, a bill like that would make it possible for me to be arrested and, give an officer another reason to make something up. They could say, well, she said that I was ugly, so I had every right to arrest her. It's something that if it gets passed, first of all, the way that it's supposed to be used is an infringement on our rights. But I think it could be incredibly misused.
Well, that's the crazy thing too, is that I feel like lately people have been really scared of, they've talked a lot about government infringing on rights. And they use the mask mandate to talk about that. But what really it should worry people is stuff like this, where it's where you insult a police officer and you get thrown in prison. That's not something that you think of that would happen in America. That's something that I would think that would happen in a place that was a one-party state.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's something that you think of a North Korea or a communist China, where, if you don't toe the party line, you're going to get penalized in some way. So, I mean, obviously no one should run around insulting a cop to their face anyway, but if you're at a protest or whatever, and like I said, these people, by the police officers, by what I mean by these people, show some restraint. I mean, someone called you your name, big deal. I mean, They get paid very well, man. I mean, if that's the worst thing that happens to you in your day, I mean, you're lucky. You know what I mean? So, I mean, go look at some of the salaries of some of these cops, of how much they make. If you get a little verbal, someone calls you short or whatever, something like that, I don't think that's a reason to find someone or do anything. To me, this is just an answer to like the social justice protests, to scare people, to, you know what I mean? Like Natalia mentioned, $250 fine. Well, some people can't afford that fine. And that might stop some people from going to a protest or showing up. I know that when I wanted to go to a protest this past summer, but I saw in the news they were shooting rubber bullets at people, and I stayed far away. I had a brand new car. I didn't want to get hurt. The police response scared me from going. And I think this is like another scare tactic, not as overt, but that's what I see it as, basically.
So I guess that wraps up our episode 4 of the UPress Play in News podcast. Tune in next week to see what we'll be talking about next. My name is Natalia, and we are done.